So here's another student request. We have a part of a pen, and there's some interesting different shapes and things going on with it. So I'm going to try and show my best as to how I would attempt to go about making something like this. Again, this is with no dimensions at all. Just going to basically go off of this picture as best I can. Maybe, maybe that one actually. I like that better. I'm going to start with this feature here. So let's go ahead and get started. So I make a 2D sketch, and now let's just go ahead and start with a circle. Oop, that didn't work. We'll extrude this out some distance. I'm just going to try and make this look as proportional as possible. And since I made that right on the origin, when I go in here, I can make a new sketch. I'm going to make a couple of cuts on this. I know I want these two things to be equal to each other. And if I make a section view where I slice graphics here with the right click menu, and I project the geometry of this, I can choose to have the circle pass through this point. Now if I actually had this in front of me, I would then say how far down does that change from there to there, and it looks like not very much at all. So one easy way to do this would be to sketch this out on paper. And here I'm making this into a construction line. So I kind of highlighted it, turned it into a construction line, and if you can figure out what the radius of this circle is using a circle template, and you can kind of figure out how far down it goes, that it's actually intersecting with the pin, those are two really good things that help you to lay this out. And it's not going to do that for me, so I'm going to make a point at this intersection where this construction line and this line cross, and now I'm going to say coincident point with the circle and that point. I'm going to have both of these circles lined up with each other, only apparently not as a horizontal. I guess I'll use a vertical constraint, just so long as that dotted line's there to show they line up. And if that's a swoop down that way, this one needs to be a swoop down this way. This would be about the same kind of a cutoff, which I don't know that I like that. May have to make this projected as well. I'll make the circle tangent to that line, and I'll cut, and I'll cut. Yeah, okay. I'm going to get rid of the outside of all of this. There and there. I'm going to attach my two lines together, and I'm going to do an extrude of this middle shape going both directions as an intersect, which means it's going to keep whatever's inside that shape. Distance is going to be changed to all, so now I should have that kind of funky shaped thing that you started with. And from the side, I'm trying to keep that double swoop the same. Okay. Now that we have that in place, let's make another sketch here on this plane. I get behind this whole thing. So here I'm looking at this. I'm going to start to make that extension there. So I know it has to be connected. I'm also going to assume it has a slightly smaller diameter on the inside. So I'm going to kind of have it overlapping, and you should be able to figure out the thickness of the material and this inside dimension here. If anything, you can just assume it's all the same thickness of plastic. So whatever we said this was between these two yellow lines, which I can figure out right now, maybe. Nope, doesn't want me to figure that out. Whatever this dimension was, make this dimension the same. That should be about right. We are going to extrude that part and that part the other direction so that it looks about that length. So on my end, yeah, it looks about right. I'll do it one way. I'll make a new sketch here. I'm going to first slice graphics so I can see what I'm working with, project geometry of that ring, finish my sketch, and then I'm going to say extrude again, distance to next. It doesn't like to next. Let's say distance to. Maybe it'll let me pick this surface here. Yeah, let me click it, but it didn't change. Oh, there it goes. It changed. Since it's going to go up until it hits that surface and then it stops. Okay. That's close, but it has like a little rib there. So let's take a look at this one more time. We were basing that off of this plane. So if I click it so it's highlighted, I can also click plane here, and I can drag that down. I can offset a plane away from it. Okay, so you should be able to figure out how far up this goes and base where the work plane is placed from there. But that's going to be the skinny part. So I'm going to make another new sketch. Let's slice graphics so we can see the inside. Project geometry. And we are cutting some bits away. So let's make a little ring there. I'll say extrude. I'm going to click that there. And actually, we need to uncheck slice graphics first. Okay. Now we're going to extrude, cut, distance to, and it's going to call the way back to this surface again. Now let's see what we got. I'm going to turn this plane off. There's visibility. That's looking pretty good, I think. Now we have this funky thing going on. Alright. Easy way to do that is we're going to say plane, and because this is cylindrical, I can make a plane tangent to this surface. Is it that surface? It is. So plane tangent to this surface, and it's going to be actually on one of these ends. So I'm going to choose this as my reference plane, and I'll make a plane that's tangent again to this, but it references that one that goes through the middle and is vertical. So I'll make a new sketch there. I know it looks something kind of like a rectangle. I'm going to project the geometry of what I had down here, and I'm going to make sure that the midpoint of that lines up with the midpoint of that, so that no matter what I do, that's going to be symmetrical. You should also be able to figure out what the length of that is. Yeah, it looks a little bit shorter. And it's definitely not that big. About 0.125. Sure, why not? Make a new sketch here. Let's see here, what else do you have for pictures? That's it, huh? Okay. I wish you would have got the front view of that, but no worries, we can figure without it. That looks like an ellipse to me. I want to say it's kind of elliptical, It should completely engulf that rectangle that we made. You should be able to tell me. I'll show you how you dimension an ellipse. When you click on one, you just move your mouse straight up, and it gives you half of that. It's like a little minor radius. And if you click on it and you move out to the side, that gives you half of the width there. So I guess that'd be the major radius and the minor radius, if you want to call it that. Okay, so I'm going to click on both of those, give it some value that's going to make it look proportional here. That's too big. And there's the little double thing there on the back. Easy peasy. Right click, slice graphics. Now I can just see this. And it is going to be another kind of ellipse shaped thing. But there's like a 2-point rectangle that's cut out through the middle of it. I'm going to make sure that that midpoint matches up with that. And trim all over there. Maybe pull that back a little bit. I don't know how far to extrude that up, but we'll pick some distance. And then we can always go back on this plane here, make a new sketch. Slice our graphics again. Let's try project geometry one more time. Ooh, did not like that. Close enough. I'm going to make this tangent. And I'm just going to kind of complete the shape here. And we can extrude cut that. Okay. So now that whole... Oh, only did it from one side. Let's see. Let's make sure it cuts from both directions. There we go. Now it looks a little bit more like that. And the inside of this. Inside of this had some weird ribbing there. That's going to be to make sure it keeps pressure on whatever it's attaching to. So let's take a quick look at that. I think if we go here on one of these, we can make a new sketch. Slice our graphics again so we can see what's happening. And if this is not the right plane, you can always make another one parallel to it, the same way that we did this plane down here with work plane 2 or work plane 1. You can just extend that down. I'm going to make sure this is symmetrical by lining up the midpoint with the origin. There it goes. Let's scoot that down a wee bit. And we're going to be adding material. I will change the direction so it's going down instead of up. And it's probably like a ½ inch or so. Okay. So now if we're looking at it from inside here, there's one of those things. If I use circular pattern, I can pick on that. Say this is my rotation axis. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 8. So they didn't look quite right with this extrusion. So maybe I'll change that from a half inch to 0.75.